So I just walked in. There's a line of people around the block waiting, thousands, to come in and hear you. Does that surprise you?
It does. But I'm pleased because you and I are good friends. We talked a lot. You understand more than about anybody I know why I wrote the book about my son Bo, and I want people to know what an incredible man he was and what a decent man he was. And so it's nice that people are willing to come and get a chance to talk about him.
But you also told me that you wanted to write this to give people hope.
Yes, because it's happening. You know, we had these photo lines beforehand.
Yeah.
Last night in San Francisco, this lovely woman came up and she threw her arms around me. And you know, today's situation, you don't know. All kidding aside, whether
yeah.
And she hugged me, said thank you, and I looked at her and she said, I lost my 24-year-old daughter to glioblastoma 2 days ago. I had to be here.
Wow.
Tonight, 4 people in line lost a son or a daughter to cancer, but they wanted to come because they got hope from the book.
And what do you say to them when they come looking for hope for you, looking for inspiration? They want to be reassured that they can go on.
I say 3 things, basically. Number one, depending on the depth of the love, and it was real if they're taking the time to come, and it's not all losses are equal, that he or she is still with you. They're still inside you. They're still there, number one. Number two, there will come a time when a thought, a memory of your lost child or husband or wife brings a smile to your lip before it brings a tear to your eye. That's when you know you're going to make it, and it will come.
Has that happened with you?
It happened with me. With Bo, it's happened. I found this tour where 60,000 folks have...
Yeah, it's like a rock star tour, American Promise tour, Joe Biden.
Yeah, well, that's what the guys who published the book did, because this is about promise. We're making enormous progress in the fight against cancer. The foundation is working. For example, I met today in the line, this couple comes up and the woman introduces herself and she says, I work at Cedars-Sinai. Her name is Susan, I don't think she'd mind, Wyden. And she introduces me to Dr. Keith Black, who is the...
I just did a story on Keith Black.
Yeah. And then she talked, they are going to the FDA on Friday, I think she said, because they've developed a drug for glioblastoma, which is the most deadly of cancers in the brain.
Yeah.
Killed your uncle, Teddy.
It's what John McCain has now.
John McCain has now. And they said in their test it extends life for over 2 years. Now they're looking for approval. We're on the cusp of making so many changes and so many possibilities. And so science is going to outrun these diseases. And so I'm optimistic. That's the promise. That's the promise.
You know, in the speech the other day, Oprah talked about we're on the horizon of a new day. And so many people are discouraged, whether they've lost a child, whether they've lost hope, whether they've lost the promise. Do you think we're also on the horizon of a new day? Are you optimistic?
I am optimistic. We are better positioned than any country in the world to own the 21st century.
Where do you get that optimism?
I get the optimism.
Get out of our way?
If we just get out of our own way. Look, by far and away, we're the economically most powerful country in the world. There's not a single world leader that I've met, and many of them I met with your uncle and with your, that wouldn't trade places in a heartbeat with the President of the United States. We have the greatest research universities in the world, more than every other country combined. That's where all this new thinking is coming from. We have the most productive workers in the world. They're 3 times as productive as they are in Asia. We find ourselves in a position where we have the most agile venture capitalists. We are in a position where there's so many changes on the horizon. These young women here are filming this. They're going to be flying around the world subsonically at 22,000 miles an hour in the next 10 years. They're going to see more changes and cures and impacts. We're going to end up with look, there was just this piece on Africa. In Africa, what's happened is they're all of a sudden figured out they can't afford fossil fuel in the big sites So guess what? They're all moving to renewable energy. They're moving wind and sun, solar panels. The world's changing, man. We can own it. It's like your other uncle, President Kennedy said. You know, when he said, "Why do we choose to go to the moon?" Well, we choose to go. Everybody remembers all of the speech. He said, "Because we refuse to postpone." We should refuse to postpone all that's available to us.
So you're optimistic that we're in a new day.
I am, if in fact we gain control of the seamier side of our politics. If you look at all of the issues.
And how do we do that?
Well, we do that because I think the American people, we have to speak out. We speak out. We don't have to get down in the mosh pit with these guys. But we speak out and we talk about what David Brooks talks about, this invisible moral fabric that holds up society, the decency that the American people possess, the idea that people treat people with dignity. That's the America I know. And we have to start paying attention to the legitimate plight of high school educated white and black Americans who have been left behind. They have a job, but they're scared to death of the technology change they're taking away. We don't talk to them. My dad used to say, "Joey, I don't expect the government to solve my problem. I expect them to understand it."
Yeah.
When's the last time you heard, in my party, the Democratic Party, when's the last time you heard any people talking about that guy that has a job making 50 and the wife who has a job making 30? And how hard it is to get child care, how hard it is to pay for college. We don't talk. That's who we are.
What would you say to somebody, you've got a lot of young people coming to hear you tonight, why should they think about a career in politics? It feels so divisive, it feels so ugly, it feels so negative. Why would you say you've devoted your life to it? Why would you say,
I had two political heroes in my life, and this is documented. I'm not saying it because you're sitting next to me. I had only two political heroes. Mm-hmm. One was Martin Luther King, and the other one was Bobby Kennedy. Mm-hmm. The day Bobby Kennedy was assassinated, I walked across the stage at Syracuse University to get my law degree. The country was ripped apart. The de facto nominee was assassinated. Mm-hmm. The Vietnam War was separating families and neighborhoods and people. The women's movement was viewed as some radical attempt to try to feminize the world. The environmental movement was just starting. My generation was told, come to San Francisco, come to Haight-Ashbury, drop out. Don't trust anybody over 30. We got engaged and we changed the world. We've gone through so much tougher than we have now. So much tougher than we have now. And I say to them, get up, get engaged. There's no place to hide. No matter how well you do, no matter how much money you make, you can't build a wall high enough to keep the pollution out. No matter what happens, if your sister can't marry the woman she loves, you are diminished. No matter what you have or what you build around yourself, you cannot have the kind of life you want if your best friend is profiled because he's black. If you can't get it, I mean, we are just, sorry.
But that's the place you believe that still that change can happen.
I believe it will happen because what you're starting to see is, in my view, at first this generation, the millennials and this generation graduating, the most progressive generation in the history of America, the most giving generation, but they're not engaged in politics. They're not engaged in politics nearly enough. And I tell the story, and I mean it. I was 28 years old. I was asked to run for the United States Senate. Your Uncle Teddy came and helped me out. I went to my professor, the guy I admired greatly at the university. I said, what should I do? He said, you should run. I said, come on, doctor, I'm just turning 29 and I won't be old enough. He said, Joe, remember Plato. And I remember looking at him, and I never remember his philosophy class. The penalty good people pay for not being involved in politics is being governed by people worse than themselves. It's basic, and they're getting it. They're getting it. You saw it in Virginia. You saw it in Upper Peninsula, Michigan. You saw it. I am confident. I'm confident the American people are so much better than their leadership.
Amen. That's what you're thinking about. I'm going to let you go out and hit the
But I really
stage
be-
out there.
I really believe
and
it.
you believe it, and I want to thank you for making time to talk to us,
Oh,
because
come
we're
on.
interested in how people are moving humanity forward, and you're moving them forward with hope and inspiration and getting them involved.
You're the best.
You're the best.
No, you
Thank
really
you.
are. I tell you what.